Good morning, this is Graham Gordon Thomas, somewhere in Australia. And I am the rational environmentalist. So, let's talk about homelessness and climate change. You would think the left and the government's first priority would be to provide enough homes, electricity and basic amenities for its population. But the government, attempting to save the climate for the whole world, is sacrificing people living in homes and having a happy family life, trying to save the planet to look good in front of the world. Now you'd have to ask yourself, what should have been the priority if there's a climate change? It should have been to make sure there's as many people in houses as possible so that they wouldn't have to suffer the problems of climate change, whatever that was. But the government's taken the left, who say they're all for the people and all for the women and all for the children, and the right, who are all God knows what they're for, I can't tell, real estate agents. Well, they're going to save the climate by putting a tax on everything, and now everyone's paying so much for electricity that more and more people are becoming homeless. And if you want to get into a flat, well, you have to have the rent and the bond and all that, then you have to have a massive amount of money for electricity, so you can't even start to get back into a flat. Nonetheless, I asked quite a few people in Melbourne when I was there to why were they homeless, young men, healthy young men, and they sort of said, oh, it was the government's fault, which it sort of is, but in a way it's their own sort of fault in a way, because if they were prepared to go out the bush and find work, there's a lot of work in Australia in the bush what backpackers do, up and down. There's fruit picking all over this country. There's thousands of backpackers picking food and working in the farms and bars and all over the place. What? Because people prefer to stay on the streets. Healthy young men prefer to stay on the streets rather than go and find a bit of adventure and find the way up into these places where backpackers get and do some of the work that needs to be done. And soon, because it's not bad money, soon not only would they have a life, they'd be getting fit and healthy, and they can eat the food they're picking, they also soon gather enough money together to find some accommodation. Maybe not in the cities, but in a country town somewhere. Well, they might find life's a little bit easier than it is in the city anyway. And once you're in a place, you can find the rents are easy to pay anyway, whether you're working or not. So it's but the fact of homelessness is going to be made a lot worse because of the idea the Greens and the ALP and the Liberals have rushed into saving the climate by banging up electricity prices beyond the pale. I mean, now they're 100% more than were just a few years ago. So that's obviously going to make it put a lot more people on the street than there were, simply because of the fact that you either pay electricity bill. In winter everyone wants to keep warm. You either pay electricity bill or pay your rent or pay for your food or pay for your kids' school fees or pay for your registration. Something gives. The moment that thing gives, you can't afford your rego or your new tyres for your car, suddenly things start getting a bit difficult. You're overdrawn on your credit card, etc. You can't go any further. Then things, and there's families suddenly end up on the street because they can't afford an electricity bill, not the rent. The rent. And this is the thing about this electricity, this is why I'm advocating, I think, all the sliding scale economic system, that if you're unemployed you pay a lot less for electricity than you do if you're employed. If you're a pensioner you pay less for electricity. If you're on lower income you pay less for electricity, because if they're going to use wind and solar, once you've installed them you don't put any more wind in to get electricity out. But what they've done now with this wind and solar is something that ought to be understood. It's a mathematical thing. The more wind and solar they use, the less electricity there is available. Therefore they've got to bang the price up to make sure that people use less to make it look like it's working. Just a con. The whole climate change thing, whether the climate change is changing or not, is irrelevant to the cost of electricity, which is then causing more and more homeless and hardship and suffering, unemployment, putting men and women out of work, children, causing children to suffer, seeing their parents unemployed, and then these left, the socialists, are not, oh, we care for people. No, they don't. This is the greatest con and lie ever told, is that the socialists, so-called now, are for the people. They're not people who are actually in the workforce. They're people who are in the public service or the pay of the taxpayer, who are sort of sitting in offices in these elite little numbers, and it's all about what's good for them. They are compliant people. They're saying what it is that keeps them in a job. If they start saying, well, I don't believe in climate change anymore, or rather was low electricity prices, they'll probably get the sack, or there'll be some reason to be ostracised in the office. And that's what's going on here. They've made this climate change such a religion. People are paying a deadly tithe now in electricity charges. To do what? How can raising electricity and putting more and more people on the dole, therefore on the streets, therefore homeless, maybe destitute, how can that save the climate? The thing is, I often suspect, some of us suspect, that the government, the liberals, the elite, they don't give a shit actually about homeless. They don't care about people, otherwise they would never have done this. They'd have looked after homelessness first before they put electricity prices up. You sort your first basic problems out. People need houses. People need somewhere to live. The Chinese do it. Why can't we do it? But I often suspect that the government, the elite in Australia, and maybe in America as well, see, the more people that are on the street, chances are more crime will be committed, more people go to jail, and private people who run the jails will make more money. That's one aspect of this. But also, by having people on the street, the people who are thinking about going on strike about electricity prices or something like that will think, oh no, I could end up on the street. So the people homeless, the government, the ALP and Greens, they need the homelessness to put fear into people about starting questioning their motives about climate change. That's part of the reason. If they cared about people, that's why we're going to save the climate, because we care about people in the future, but you have to care about people now. And then if you cared about people now well enough, then the people in the future will be well looked after, regardless what the climate is. Anyone who thinks they can predict the climate out in the future, well, you might as well be telling me what the lotto numbers are every week, because we'll win every week. It's impossible. So there you are. But anyone who's on the street in Melbourne, young healthy man, should go out and look, go and see the employment agencies. So look, I want a job in Darwin, I want a job somewhere, there must be somewhere I can work, because there is lots of work in this country out there in the bush. Don't be frightened of going out in the bush. And I asked them, they said, oh, we're city folk, we want to live in a city. Well, you can't always have what you want. We can't. I like to live in luxury in Fiji or Hawaii, but I can't have that. I can't afford it. So I have what I need. A dumpy old house I got for nothing, because I restored it, worn down old house. I found the cheapest house I could, and who cares if the roof were leaking? I've got a shelter, and that's the main thing. The main thing is shelter. So go out there and find. There are solutions to some people's homelessness. The people who are heavily into drugs and stuff, or feel despondent and full of despair, well, maybe they have a little bit of a different problem. Nonetheless, anyone who's feeling depressed and all that about the situation, once you start working in something, your depression will lift because you're healthier, you've suddenly got hope, you suddenly have a social environment, because there's social society in working. What's different to the one moaning about things on the street? This society is looking forward to a beer at the end of the week when you're working. So it changes your mentality by going seeking hope, by going seeking a job out somewhere. Australia's a big, fantastic place. It's fantastic out there. Go and seek a job. Don't always ask the government to help you because it's hopeless. The government can't help themselves. They're hopeless. They're useless people. They're useless. They cause this problem. No, the left is, oh, we'll break down the traditional family, and oh, it's all cool to break down the traditional family. This breaking down of the traditional family is very much part of the homelessness, because the compensation for all these people who are not very happy is needing to bung up the value of the houses and stuff like that to compensate for their lack of happiness. If everyone was happy, houses would be cheap. Everyone was happy beyond the material sense of the being, everyone won't be inflating the price of houses and causing homelessness. It's a spiritual thing, happiness, not a material thing. When Australia learns that, then they'll start to get some of these problems sorted. And therefore, so as a practical advice, if you're young man, go and be a brickies labourer. And they want bricklayers labourer. They want don't be frightened of doing it. Maybe you haven't thought of it before. It looks like, oh, a low life or so. Go and find some real work. Then you'll get yourself feeling better psychologically. You'll start feeling fitter physically, and you start feeling, oh look, I feel great. I'm doing physical work, because physical work's really, really good for your mind. Physical work's not just about using the muscles, it's actually really, really good for your mind. And don't let anyone tell you anything else, because they obviously the people who are not doing any physical work, the ones in government, their minds are like, may as well be lumps of mud inside their brain, because their minds are useless. They say you can save the climate while causing more and more homelessness by putting the price of electricity up. And who suffers most? Women. Women and children. The ones they think, oh, we all care about women and children. No. If you cared about women at all, electricity prices would be lower, and electricity prices should be scaled before the people unemployed should pay a lot less for electricity. This is urgent, by the way. And people on pensions a lot less for electricity in a sliding scale system that then makes sure that people can stay warm in winter. The government, the ALP and Greens have got this so wrong. So wrong. It's a sort of a very sad thing. I find it deeply moving that some people who are so wealthy can cause so much hardship, so thoughtlessness, because they're there on the ABC, oh, we demand, kids demanding electricity prices go up to court to save the planet. That's what they're demanding here. I'm not thinking there's other kids who aren't as wealthy as theirs on the street because of this problem. And no one's talking about it rationally as I am. They don't want people, oh, don't listen to old white men. Well, of course they don't want you to listen to old white men, because we might tell you old-fashioned ideas about what are rational and practical that might actually work. It's not about telling people what to do. I don't care what people do. What to do is up to them. They make their own choices. I mean, the people making their own choices and making their own way in life. I was homeless, just to put the record straight. I was homeless for 2 years. In 1998, I couldn't get a rental anywhere because, well, wherever it was, I didn't look right, and whatever it was, I couldn't get a rental anywhere. And that's what really scared me, and so I solved my problem another way by getting a tent and moving around, living in a tent, living in the bush, but and stuff like that till I worked out how to solve the problem. But also I've got really good physical skills because I've been in the bowling game, so it helped me sort of get out of the hole, plus other means. But I know what homeless is, and it's very, very scary to be homeless, and anyone can become homeless in this country of Australia. It's a bugger of a place. For all its wonderful, oh, we're all so wonderful, there's something here that's eating the soul of this country away, and it's greed, real estate agents, or real estate madness, and climate change madness. Simple as that. And that's who ALP, Greens and Liberals, may as well call one party, are working for, against the people. Let's be honest about it. I am Graham Gordon Thomas. I'm the rational environmentalist, and that's all I'm going to be, is frank and honest. If it offends, well, I'm sorry about that. No offence meant to anyone. Go and get a job. If you're stuck on the street, go and get a job. Go on, if you're young and healthy and fit, don't have to sit on the street getting a cold backside. Go out, you know, look where there's work in Australia, see if you can get up there, get yourself a tent, $30 tent, and bugger off from that city and start giving yourself a bit of an adventure. Life's about having an adventure. Life's a struggle anyway, but have an adventure with yourself. Go on, you know, go and see if the Aboriginals need your help or something like that. They'll welcome you. They're beautiful people, the Aboriginals, don't you worry. Don't be frightened of them. It's not theirs what's the problem in this country, it's the white fellas. Anyway, and the rational environmentalist saying good day in a beautiful dapple sunlight in somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Australia.